Hey everyone, have another special guest with you today. We have a medical doctor, Andreas Eenfeldt is here. He actually is the CEO of a very large keto-friendly website. It's basically dietdoctors.com, dietdoctor.com. That's right. So welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Berg. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and the first thing I want to cover is you're from Sweden. I'm actually Swedish. I've never been to Sweden, but I hear rumors. Okay, there's rumors going out like Sweden has now gone low carbs. Sweden is now high fat. Like, tell me the truth. You're there. What is the truth about this?
Yeah, I guess the rumors are slightly exaggerated. It's true that low carb has been very popular in Sweden for about a decade now. So, I mean, it's certainly going strong. And also, we had this government expert review of dietary treatments for obesity about 5 years ago, and they came to the conclusion that low carb has been proven to be more effective, at least in the short term when people actually do it, than other sort of dietary treatments. And that is the reason why people believe that the whole country of Sweden is now low carb, because that sort of report got a bit twisted online with someone sort of falsely claiming that now this is the official dietary recommendation for every man, woman, and child in Sweden. Not true. It's just for dietary treatments for obesity, which is a good thing.
Yeah, that's
but not quite as impressive.
Not quite. Everyone's switching their gears to that. Now, like you have countries, Sweden, Norway, Denmark. You're typically the diet is higher in like fats, right? Like butter and cod liver oil, I'm guessing. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, certainly a lot of dairy. We do love butter. I mean, that's great. Sure.
Yeah.
And the moose fat, I guess, although it's not a big thing.
Wow, that's great. So so one of these days I'm going to have to go over there because I heard it's beautiful. So
yeah, you're most welcome. Come by anytime. We'll show you Stockholm.
Absolutely, absolutely. I rarely went out of the country. I did one trip to Italy, and that was quite incredible. So I wanted to venture out, but I'm not crazy about the long flights. But we'll deal with that.
It's not that long. I mean, I come to your place all the time, the US. So
which we appreciate.
It's only fair that you come visit us.
Good point. Okay.
Now you have to. Okay.
That's right. All right. You talked me into it.
Perfect.
So we both have something in common. We want to spread keto. We want to get this out there. You've done this for quite a long period of time, and you basically you see the results all over the place. So what do you feel is some of the barriers that we're up against to get this message out there? What are you running into?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I mean, as you said, I've been doing this, I guess, for 15 years. I spent 10 years as a family doctor treating patients with low carb. And, the latest 5 years mostly focusing on this company, actually more than that. I think when I started this, I kind of believed that this was going to be maybe 5 years, paradigm shift is going on, it's going to happen. And every year it's like, yeah, sure, we're getting a little bit closer, but it's very slow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm a bit more of a realist now. It's just going to take an awful long time, I'm afraid. I mean, depending on how many people work trying to make this happen, it could be another 5 years. It could be another 50 years. It depends. I'm hoping for 5, but I fear it could be longer. So the thing that's in the way, I think there are at least 2 big things. And that's still this fear of natural fats, saturated fat, cholesterol, that kind of thing. People fear that eating, saturated fat from meat or butter is going to give them high cholesterol and then a heart attack. And that's what their cardiologist is saying as well, right? It's not true. I guess you know it, I know it. Most of the people listening, I guess, know that modern science shows that there's really no strong correlation between eating butter and heart disease, and telling people to avoid saturated fat doesn't seem to make do any good really whatsoever. So it's just a mistake, but it takes such a long time to change a thing like that when every expert used to believe it. And now, you know, a lot of people are starting to question it and say, maybe it's not so bad after all, but it just takes a long time. So that's the one thing. And then the second thing, I think, is this notion that weight loss is just about calories. And it's all about eating less and moving more. And we all heard that. Problem is that when you look at it in scientific studies, it's actually more effective to avoid carbs than to just count calories. And it ends up resulting in you eating fewer calories because you're less hungry. That's what the science shows. And it ends up resulting in quite often that people actually burn more calories, at least according to some really good new science, showing that on a low-carb diet, people tend to, under certain circumstances at least, burn 500 calories maybe, or at least 200 calories more per day, which is a huge amount. So a low-carb diet can result in eating less because you're less hungry, burning more because the body just burns more calories. And the bottom line is, study after study shows that people lose more weight on low-carb. So yeah, two things standing in the way: this sort of obsolete fear of saturated fat and this sort of fixation on calories when it's really about hormones and the quality of the calories you eat.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's we're up against fixed ideas, and it's ingrained. It's really, really hard to change someone's mind about certain things, especially when it conflicts with what they've been taught for so many years. And but what's interesting is that I recently was invited to do a webinar to general industry in the food industry. Now, I didn't know any details about this. All they said is, we need you to do a webinar to food manufacturing companies. I'm like, okay, just to do a general webinar on ketosis. So I did it. And then after it was done, I said, can I have the list of who was on that webinar? So they sent it to me. 400 of the top food manufacturing companies in the world was on that webinar. So what I was fascinating is that the food manufacturing companies are seeing a trend. They follow the trend. So the market follows the money, actually. And so to get them to change, of course, they're now looking at developing keto-friendly stuff, sugar-free stuff. I mean, look at Coca-Cola. So there is an interesting shift in the manufacturing companies at that level. So you know that there's a change happening right now. So I just found that interesting. So I had no idea until I got done with the webinar. Yeah.
Certainly things are happening all the time. And I think every year, I mean, I've been doing this for more than a decade. So in my experience, every year people are a little bit less inclined to eat sugar and a little bit less inclined to be afraid of fat.
Right.
And it just keeps moving slowly in that direction. It goes for the general public, and it also goes for, name your expert. On average, they are more worried about sugar and less worried about butter for every passing year.
Right. Exactly. When you started medical practice, were you low carb right at the beginning, or is that something that you evolved into?
Yeah, so I started practicing medicine in the year 2000, and then it took about 2 years after that until I became really interested in low carb. And then quite rapidly, I tried it myself, read a lot of science books, talked to friends and family, and lots of people tried it. And, eventually I just felt I have to try this on my patients. I have to try this, recommend this to patients with type 2 diabetes, with obesity, with high blood pressure, because it seems like a slam dunk thing. It just makes perfect sense, and the science backs it up. And really that transformed my idea of practicing medicine, because starting as a new doctor, I just got into this world where it's expected that your patients come back every year slightly older, slightly sicker, and then need a little bit more medications, right? You just add some blood pressure medication, some diabetes medication, and then you send them home, and then they come back another year later, and same thing repeats. And nobody questions it. My teachers, they were all, this is the way it's supposed to be. My mentor is like, yeah, nothing strange. But then when I started telling these patients, you may want to try a low carb, high fat diet. This could be great. And they were like a little bit skeptical at first, but a lot of people ended up trying it, and then they came back suddenly healthier. Like, you could actually remove medications. And I think all doctors who do this, they have experienced that many, many, many times. You have your patient come back and they're happy, they lost weight, they feel great, and then oops, their blood pressure is down. You have to remove a blood pressure drug, or their blood sugar has normalized, and you can remove 1 or 2 diabetes medications. It's just remarkable, and it's just so much more fun, I think, as a doctor. And it's more like in line with what I thought medicine was supposed to be from the beginning. It's like, practicing medicine the regular way, just prescribing medications, is kind of depressing, but this is a lot of fun.
I agree. I think that's really what people want, is they want to go to their doctor and have them look at the root cause. They want diet advice that works, and they don't get it all the time. And even I went to chiropractic college, so I don't know what it's like going through medical school, but I know in chiropractic college, they give you maybe 1 class in nutrition. You get a toxicology class, you get a good amount of biochemistry, but there's nothing related to food at all. So you have to basically relearn everything when you get out. I don't know what it was like for you.
No, the same thing. We studied medicine for 5.5 years in Sweden, and 1 week is nutrition, which is, I think, a lot more than in the US, because you have like a day or something in medical school. It's just crazy when you think of it as sort of one of the true pillars or foundations of good health is a healthy diet, and doctors learn almost nothing about it. It's just crazy.
It really is. Now you're doing, you're involved in a lot of symposiums and conventions. Are you seeing more medical doctors coming into this and kind of looking at it? What's your experience with that?
No, I think it's more and more common. Lots of doctors using our website. I've been to a number of conferences where there are, perhaps half the audience is doctors or other healthcare professionals, and they're all very positive to this. At least the ones coming to these conventions that I go to. I guess it's a little bit of a selection bias there, but still, I have a feeling that this is getting much more popular compared to, let's say, 5 or 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, I see it too. What about protein? What's your viewpoint? I always like to ask people in the keto field about recommending certain amounts of protein, higher, lower, moderate. What's your take on the protein?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I'm not the biggest protein expert out there. You can find, of course, experts with any kind of viewpoint. I tend to end up somewhere in the middle. If you take, I don't know, Ted Nyman on one side, and then you have Jason Fung on the other, and then you have Dr. Finney in the middle. I'm more like in the middle. But generally, my feeling, I think there is no really good evidence, to my knowledge, that proves this either way. But my general feeling is that there's quite a wide span of protein intake that can work really well for most people. And then maybe if you're extremely insulin resistant, you may, in some circumstances, maybe do better with slightly less. And if you're insulin sensitive and you do a lot of resistance exercise, for example, you might do better with a little bit more. But for most people, I think there's quite a wide range.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, because it's one of those things where people always want to ask me, how many grams do I need? I'm like, you just have to test it out. You have to find out your sweet spot, because once you do it yourself, it takes like 3 or 4 days to figure it out. And then you'll know what works for you instead of trying to follow some opinion that you don't really know. I mean, in practice, like you have a lot of new gurus coming out there that have never been in practice. And so if you haven't worked with people one-on-one for over the years, it's a whole different ballpark. You can't stick one theory into everything. And I'm talking like, even like within the keto field, like you have different versions of it. Sometimes you have to go over here, sometimes you go over here, because just when you think you figured it out, there's going to be that exception to the rule. That person doesn't get results. I'll give you an example. I was recommending 7 to 10 cups of vegetables to my clients, and with great success for a period of time. And then you get one lady who comes in that completely and utterly gains like 10 pounds within a week. And I see her face is all red. Obviously, she was reacting from an allergy or something and blew up like a balloon. And then I'm like, wow, okay, well, I'm not going to recommend that again to everyone. So it's one of those things where you have to, if people have weaknesses within the digestive system, they don't do well on 10 cups of salad a day, even that fiber just tears them up. So I'm like very flexible to go this direction or that direction, because I want to do what works. And sometimes these bodies they don't always respond to the same thing,
Right. I think it's interesting. We're in the process of more thoroughly evidence-basing our low carb and keto guides, and what becomes more and more clear is that we don't really know a lot of these things with any certainty. Like, for example, we're saying that a lower carb diet tends to be more effective for weight loss, and that might be true, but there is really no high quality randomized control trial that ever compared to true low carb diets with varying levels of carbs head to head. So you're really comparing in a way apples and oranges or whatever. You're looking at different studies and you're saying, okay, maybe a lower is more effective, it seems like, but there's no good high quality evidence for that even. And a lot of the other things where we think we know, we don't know either.
I mean, you got two things. You got, number one, who's going to fund a study like that? Number two, it's so hard to isolate combinations of foods to know this is what did this. I mean, it's almost impossible, because how do we know it's this versus that? And then, I mean, yeah, it's like you're not isolating one remedy.
It's hard and it's expensive, but these are important questions. I think eventually there will be studies to test this. It's just a question of time, but I guess we're going to have to wait a bit longer.
Are you familiar with, his name is Thomas Seyfried?
Yeah, sure.
So he does a lot of research on cancer. And I mean, he can't even find a cancer cell that can survive like something like 14 days on his protocols. So he's seeing amazing results. But the problem is the funding. He's basically just running on a shoestring as far as a budget. He's just trying to get funding. So people donate here and there, but that is the problem. Like, you're up against this huge industry, unfortunately.
Yeah, same thing there. There are interesting findings in test tubes and everything, but again, cancer and ketogenic diets, actual testing on humans, randomized trial, I don't think there is any. There are a few small pilot studies, uncontrolled, with, not really slam dunk findings. A lot of these things we don't know. It's really promising, right? But we don't know. Yeah. That's, I think, the bottom line still. But keto and cancer, it's such an important and exciting area for future research.
Oh, yeah.
To see what they come up with.
Absolutely. There was some good data from Dr. Ludwig's study, right?
Yeah. You mean the one with weight maintenance on different levels of carbohydrates, the one from a month ago?
Yeah. Do you want to just touch on that? I think it was a very quality study.
Yeah, that one, I haven't studied it in detail, but I think it's fair to say that it's the best support yet for the notion that you can actually influence how many calories your body burns per day, depending on what kind of diet you eat. So it's not just about the number of calories you eat, it's also about the quality of them, because that can influence how many calories you burn. So the bottom line of that study was that people who have lost weight and then they were trying to maintain their weight loss, if they went on a low carb diet, they burned more calories per day than if they went on a higher carb diet, making the weight loss maintenance probably significantly easier, because burn more calories, you can eat more calories and still maintain your weight loss.
Absolutely.
And the difference was quite big, like 200 calories on average at least. But if you looked at the people with the high insulin levels, the insulin resistant people, and the people who actually had a high compliance with the diet, then it could be up to 500 extra calories per day, which is an enormous amount.
Interesting. Fascinating. From your viewpoint, and for those of you that are watching that are new, how necessary, why should they run their body on ketones? Why should they do ketosis?
That's a very good question. I'm not sure. I think it's for some people, there seems to be a benefit. Certainly, it seems like a very effective way for people to lose weight without hunger. Seems like a very good way to reverse type 2 diabetes. For certain other diseases, it can be very beneficial, like epilepsy. And then some people just feel better. But that is a little bit tricky because there are no good studies to actually prove that. So it's a very subjective thing,
Mm-hmm.
You feel better, you feel more mental clarity, more energy. Some people say that they do, and that's great. But we don't have any good quality evidence to show that that's a sort of general thing that most people experience. So I guess in a way it's like people can try it out and see if they feel great. That's good.
Well, have you had cases that you put people on ketosis and it didn't work for them? They didn't do well, and they needed to go back to the carbs.
Yeah, I think for some people, at the very least, it's too hard to do, and it's not worth it to them.
Wow.
And then, of course, some people can get side effects, like you can get bad breath, for example, or some people might get constipation or leg cramps, things like that, and feel that it's not worth it for them. So I think it's up to the individual to see what are the benefits, what are the goals that they are trying to achieve, and how do they feel? Do they get any side effects or not? And then you have to try to balance that and see if it's worth it. Personally, for me, I mean, I guess I'm in light ketosis almost all of the time, but I've experimented with trying to be in deep ketosis, eating almost no carbs for a month or two. And for me, it's not worth it. I really don't experience the kind of benefits that make it worth it for me. I'm relatively insulin sensitive. I don't have any major weight issues, even though I did lose like 15 pounds on low carb.
So you didn't get into this with a personal problem?
Not really. I mean, I do great on low carb. I always stay on a low carb diet because I enjoy it, and I'm not hungry, and I effortlessly maintain the weight I had when I was 25, which is good when you're getting close to 50. So I do really well on a low carb diet, but going super low, eating almost no carbs, below 10 or 20 grams a day, I don't feel I need it. And if I did, I would eat it because it's fine, but I don't feel I need it.
What type of carbs do you give into, or do you eat?
Yeah, I eat lots of vegetables, obviously, some root vegetables, berries, nuts, that kind of thing, mostly occasionally, perhaps a potato.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, you're not doing
I'm not doing crazy
right.
amounts. Maybe 50 grams a day on a regular day, sometimes less, sometimes more. But I guess I averaged around there.
Interesting. Yeah, I personally, my health hit rock bottom. That's what forced me into some like keto. I just got into it, and I'm pretty strict. Um, but I'm always I'm experimenting. And recently, last night, we made this keto bread. And you know what? It really messed me up. So my body is like a human testing test tube because I can tell if something just has too many of this, and I consumed this, and it didn't have any necessarily I thought. I think it was some ingredient that was new. I have to isolate it, but it was just like, wow, that did not work. So
So
um,
what happened?
I instantly noticed like not just digestive issues, but a crash in blood sugars. When I wake up and my eyes are sticky or I feel sensitive, I'm like, okay, what did I eat last night? There's something that my body doesn't agree with. So my body reacts very quickly to things. So I can kind of like, I'm not going to be recommending that recipe. So I always like
That's
to test things
interesting.
out first.
So some people get these gastrointestinal issues with these breads with like psyllium husk in it.
Hmm.
Fortunately, I don't. My gut can take quite a lot, so
Wow,
I'm lucky that
you
way.
are lucky. Yeah, I'm envious.
Yeah. Wow.
Another thing that I tested out because I did a little interview with Frank Tufano, and he had this great recommendation, which was basically cod liver in a can. Now in America, it's not. I don't know if it's in Sweden, but I've never seen anything like that. So I ordered some, and my body loved that. It's actually cod liver, not even the oil, but the cod liver in a can. So I took that, and man, did I feel good. It's like all day long, I was like, what the heck was in there? It's probably just loaded with DHA, but
A lot of good nutrition, I guess.
yeah. So so I'm always testing things, seeing what works, and then pushing it out there on the video and seeing if people like it.
Yeah, I mean, very impressive. Your YouTube channel is huge now. You have what? How many? Like hundreds or even thousands of videos now. What is it?
I I only have like 3,500 videos right now. I put
Yeah,
out two a
thousands.
day, but we get about
Wow.
110,000 new subscribers every month.
Yeah,
Um,
that's massive.
and then we're getting close, just under I think 300 million views. And
So you're
my
clearly the largest low carb focused or keto with somewhat of a low carb and keto focus YouTube channel, the largest in the world, right?
Yeah, yeah. And healthy, I like to call it healthy keto, doing keto
Mhm.
healthy, because you could do like a version that's not very healthy. Um, but yeah, so I focus on that now, and I spend a lot of time researching, compiling. That's all I do. It's kind of a lonely existence where I'm researching all day long on a computer, and
So
then
you,
I
do you
go do the
do
video.
most of this work on your own, or do you have a big team now?
I have I'm the only one doing the research. I'm the only one doing the videos. I have a videographer. I have a producer I have my own studio, and I have some staff that do customer service and my website and things like that. But I don't have anyone at this point helping me with the research. I'm doing that just because I mean, I think it would be beneficial to be able to get someone to kind of narrow it down. But I have some little hacks, little secrets that I do that speed things up. Like one of the things that I do is I use a lot of Google Patents a lot. I don't know if you've tried that, but
Oh, Google Patents. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
if you take a topic on anything, let's just take DHA, and someone is going to try to get a patent on that, and what they do is they summarize all this data for you, all the research, everything in one location. So I can kind of help narrow down some research and start looking at least some research that they've done already. And that saves me a lot of time rather than try to search, one by one. It's a little
That's
secret.
interesting.
Don't tell anyone.
That's the that's a nice little trick there.
Yeah, saves
Mm.
me a lot of time. And then, yeah. And
I'll have to
so,
take a look at that.
Yeah, yeah, on any topic. I mean, someone's trying to get in order to get a patent, it has to be somewhat credible to get actual a fulfilled patent. So you have to kind of lay out some good stuff. Like even the data on Hopkins getting a patent on broccoli sprouts. Well, you can get a tremendous amount of information from that one patent on phytonutrients. Like they go right into it hardcore in cancer. And of course, they got sued in the Supreme Court and they got their patents taken away. But so you can get a lot of data that way.
It's interesting. Strange thing to patent.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I really appreciate your time. I know you're probably flat out busy doing all sorts of things. I really appreciate your time doing this interview. I hope people got some great ideas from it. And also, I want to mention I think you have one of the largest actual keto websites in the world, and you get a lot of traffic. And you have a program. I'll put a link down below. You have a program, very reasonable, that people can check out, and you have recipes, you have videos, tons of videos. I think it's 400 videos, massive amounts of recipes, great content. People can become a member. So definitely, you guys want to check it out. I'll put the link down below.
Yeah, thank you. So, it is the largest website devoted to low carb and keto in the world, dietdoctor.com. So, and everything that people need to do low carb or keto is free. So you don't have to become a member to get access to all our recipes and lots of other stuff.
Yeah, you have a lot of great stuff. So I really appreciate you putting that out there because it's helping a lot of people. So
no, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.